So I think what you're really struggling with, I think is, again, very perceptive. There's two ways in which this goes wrong, okay? And you, I think, have, and a lot of people react to the top-down approach of Christ transforming culture, which ends up looking political. So we're going to use the power systems, and we're going to kind of, in some sense, get into politics and sell our soul to it in the name of Jesus and try and change culture using the political system. And then we end up looking hold on a second. We end up looking very much worldly or not, or very political. It's like, how much of Christ is showing up in that? Even though you say you've got biblical values, I just don't see it. And we get this real reaction to the againstness and the weirdness we see in top-down power politics rather than bottom-up service. Jesus saying you serve people and transform culture from the bottom up. You really are transformative, okay? You don't lord authority over people, you serve them, and that's how you're going to slowly, virally change people and change culture. The second one is like the Christian music industry. When money gets involved with it, when power gets involved with it, fame gets involved with it, that we really see this whole thing of we're just going to look just like the world, but the lyrics of our songs are going to be a little bit different, and our music's going to be just a bit cheesier, but all the games and all the gymnastics of worldliness are going to look like they're there, and we're going to look at that and go, is that really Jesus? Is that really authentic? Is that really what we want, what we hunger for? So I think there's a political problem, and I think there's also this problem of copying the world, okay? So we end up copying the economic systems of the book industry, the music industry, whatever it might be, the TV shows, the movie stars. We end up copying the things that are popular in the world, but we have our own Christian kind of version of it. And I think we sometimes just go, I don't know that really feels authentic. And sometimes it feels a bit hypocritical. And here's the deal. You don't lead when you're copying. Okay? You don't lead when you're copying. Just from a pure leadership standpoint, to copy is by definition to follow. And so I see that as the model I talked about where we're acquiescing to culture. And there's not much of a distinction between the two. That's the acquiescing model, not the Christ transforming culture model. Okay? The Christ transforming culture model looks at the whole thing and just says, if we're not leading it, then it's changing us, we're not changing it. If we're not somehow saying that Christ has a word for culture that's different than what culture values, if we're not coming and saying there's something about the eternal perspective that would inform this, is there something about being having our citizenship in heaven that we're not Americans first, or Generation Xers first, or Generation Y first, but we're first Christians, and somehow that discipleship is going to speak into and stand against or transform the cultural values that otherwise would be socialized into me because of high school or TV or media. If we really see that, then we're saying this is primary, and it's going to speak to this, and it has to speak to this or against this, because these values don't reflect the values of Christ or the kingdom. And so acquiescing is very different than saying we're starting from a kingdom standpoint and saying that yeast in a good way or whatever it is going to grow and spread out, and it's going to have a counter narrative. It's going to look radically different. And that's where the Henry Nouwen thing comes in. Henry Nouwen was transforming the conversation. The reason you read his book is because he was leading, he was a thought leader. Okay? And as a thought leader, he wasn't copying, he was leading. And his words affected you. They affected a host of other people to go out and live differently in culture, not just to look like culture, but to make choices and decisions about how we use our time and our money and our service to the least of these that would radically go against the American dream or the rampant consumeristic tendencies of Americans, but reflect the Christianity of Jesus. That's transformative. It's leadership. It's not acquiescing in any way, and it's not retreating in any way. And so what he's actually doing there is bottom-up transformation of culture in the name of Jesus. That was the title of his book, In the Name of Jesus. So we all have those buttons of the hypocritical or of the, you've just sold out. I can't really tell the difference in your heart from what I see in the world. You just put a Christian t-shirt over it, but your heart doesn't look any different. Or it's not like going away and being a fundamentalist in our little fundamentalist enclave against the onslaught of the world as if we're defeatists. It really is saying, no, if I embrace my own sinfulness, the grace of God in my life, my own human potentiality to serve others, and if I do this with everything I've got, I'll probably be able to impact and influence others. And if I'm influencing others, then I'm shaping culture. And that's bottom-up transformation. It's Christ transforming culture. It's kind of what I'm talking about. And so it's a big conversation. It's a lofty conversation. Terminology becomes really important. But yeah, we all have the instances that we've seen that have turned us off. And somehow, whatever those are, or whatever was driving them, is not what I'm talking about.